7th of October 2025. Market was buoyed by AMD and OpenAI's deal. It led the market broadly higher in the US. As you can see here, we had Nikkei up plenty yesterday, despite the fact that their bond yields were up. We were closed here in the ASX overall, or broadly closed for the public holiday for New South Wales and a bunch of other states. As you can see here, Dow was down slightly, but Nasdaq was up 0.93, and we broadly had overall positivity, basically, essentially on the back of AMD. I think it ended up around about 20% higher. Now we had Palantir bounce back a little bit overnight after there being security concerns around those guys. Pretty miraculous move, all things considered, because we had, as I said, bond yields globally heading a fair bit higher as people are worrying about the sovereign risks. Treasury Secretary Besson warned that the government shutdown can inflict deeper than economic damage than previous, and that poses greater risk to equities, treasury yields, and the dollar. So, with the absence of overall data releases in the US, realistically, we're a little bit at sea at the moment in terms of what's going to be happening in terms of the macro outlook, until we get some sort of resolution of this government shutdown, which doesn't look to be anything really that is going to be solved anytime soon. And look, the Democrats have really pushed back on this, and it's really snookering the Republicans, because the policies they're trying to take off the table are very much popular policies, and could be very damaging to the Republicans, particularly coming into the midterms, in terms of those certain medical subsidies being taken away. We would largely have insurance costs go significantly higher for most Americans, particularly in some of those red states. That's why they've been able to get involved there. But but that big story really was, AMD was up nearly 30% at one stage, and they're going to supply some chips to OpenAI. The deal projected tens of billions in annual revenue, potentially included a 10% equity stake acquisition by OpenAI, and it positions AMD at the core of the AI hardware market, potentially competing a little bit with Nvidia. So that's why you're probably seeing a little bit of a fallback there in Nvidia. And look, we had Tesla head higher overnight as well. It was on the back of potential tariff exemption, alongside renewed optimism for the forthcoming model launches as well. That'll be out of the back of those, the new manufacturing ability which reduces costs significantly with the unboxed. They're also talking about a Gen 3 release of the Optimus robots, humanoid robots as well. So that would probably put Tesla very close to record highs, if not at record highs. AMD particularly, it's one of the only ones that's within a cooee of Nvidia in terms of any form of any form of competition. And they make chips, they make motherboards, etc. And particularly these inference chips, which we've spoken about on previous podcasts, where they may not be as brute force powerful as Nvidia, but they're going to be a lot better for very specific jobs, and that keeps the cost down fairly significantly. So the AMD chips as well are one of those ones that we've been keeping a very close eye on, because they're particularly useful for robotics and automation, and those specific jobs rather than those broader jobs that the Nvidia chips are very, very good at, and really have no competition at in the moment. But as the technology gets better, and you can you can tailor things to specific tasks, the AMD chips might just come into their own. So you've got essentially some fairly small names, all except for BlackRock at the end of this week. I think Constellation Brands is somewhere this week as well. And we're not going to have any of the US figures. Obviously, I dare say Fed Chair Powell will still speak, but we do have a lot of Fed speakers or central bank speakers this week. We've got Lagarde speaking overnight tonight, as is the Bank of England Governor Bailey. Bank of Japan Governor is speaking, and then our Governor will be speaking on Friday. So, but really just looking out for BlackRock. I would imagine will go fairly well, considering they've got those passive ETF inflows, the index inflows, etc. So yeah, overall, we don't see a huge amount out of earnings, but then we will start to see the bank earnings next week, and we'll just start to see whether some of the some of those, we can see some of that economic data, I guess, flow through into company results, or whether the earnings per share will be able to keep up with what the market's actually expecting. So yeah, overall, not looking for too much of a catalyst out of those. So we have had gold and silver continue to rally, and they will continue to rally as basically as I say, the bond yields head higher. You got lithium, uranium, and Bitcoin rallying. I think Bitcoin hit a record high and then came off. But look, the more I think copper had a very good run. It was up about 3.5% on Friday. And these guys were up about 3% on Friday as well. And consolidating those gains, we'll probably see continued strength in those those alternatives to the US dollar, as the US dollar very much it was up slightly, but it's had the worst start to a year in 50 years so far. And we'll largely see some of these flow into the Australian market today. The SPY was above 9,000 for the first time, and we'll probably see a little bit of buoyancy today, and particularly in those mining sectors, I would imagine, and possibly the energy sector as well. So, the data center theme here is very clear, and the nuclear is obviously the way they're going to go, and they just keep on needing, particularly with deals like this AMD and an OpenAI deal. They're going to continue to keep having to add further and further gigawatts of power across the power grid, and nuclear really is the only option there. So, yeah, look, we're with gold at record highs, silver at 15-odd year highs, or 14-odd year highs, and really honing in on that on those record highs. Around about that $49 mark, we'll start to see those silver miners, gold miners continue to lift overall. So I wouldn't be worried too much about the copper miners having a bit of a pullback there. It's still doing extraordinarily well, all things considered, because this economic slowdown is going to hurt those cyclical metals. And we did have platinum as well, put another percent on top of the 3% that they gained on Friday. And increasingly, having some of the best technical and momentum indicators for those particular metals in a very long time, the same as lithium, same as uranium. I think the Australian uranium miners are going to be, those shorts are their backs are going to have to be broken at some stage here, and we'll largely see the those names head a little bit higher as well. So free webinar series today at 12 o'clock. It's sort of your last chance basically to register for this one. We do have an exclusive interview in that with the CEO of DroneShield, Oleg Vornik, and and we'll have a small piece of that interview within the webinar, and then the full interview released afterwards. Some great insights there from Oleg. He was good enough to pre-record an interview for us, which was fantastic, and just talking about the general geopolitical themes, where DroneShield fits into that, possible commercial and civilian applications of some of the technology they've got there as well. So very lucky to have CEO of one of Australia's best defence companies come and give us his insights as well, not just me rabbiting on. So, and just a reminder, the picks from those last webinars are absolutely smashing the S&P in the last 4 weeks. Outperforming the S&P by about 28%. So, yeah, if you do yourself a favour, go and register for that. It'll be in the socials there. It's pretty easy to find within NPC Market socials and all my socials. So, hope everyone has a great day.